Since time immemorial, horror movies have served us unforgettable villains who've defined entire generations. Be it Leatherface, Norman Bates, Michael Myers, or Chucky the Doll. Psychotic killers who viewers love to hate due to their sinister appearance, tragic backstory, and unique character quirks have always ruled the genre. Since Terrifier 2 exploded in 2022, a new name has been added to that list. And he doesn't really need a solid motive, tragic past, or even a unique voice to scare the audience. That is Art the Clown from the Terrifier film series. The popularity of the character has spawned a multi-million-dollar franchise, the most recent film of which, Terrifier 3, became the highest-grossing unrated film of all time, earning around $90 million worldwide on a reported budget of roughly $2 million. Although inspired by iconic horror genre villains like Freddy, Krueger, and Pennywise the Clown, Art is literally a beast of his own. While critics and fans now have put Art in the league of memorable villains of the slasher genre, with his black and white costume, a creepy grin, big plastic bag, and a retro bicycle horn, getting Art the Clown onto the big screen was not a smooth ride at all. In fact, it took director and writer Damien Leone almost a decade to introduce Art in the first full-length Terrifier film in 2016. In this video, we'll trace every origin of this new horror icon, right from his first appearance in 2008 all the way to becoming a pop culture phenomenon. The bus ride that birthed a demon, the conceptual origin. I've been a horror film nerd for as long as I can remember, and the one thing that gives me the creeps is not jump scares, scary looking ghosts, or haunted houses. It's not knowing what'll come next. For me, uncertainty is the greatest fear of all. Art the Clown weaponizes this unpredictability as his trademark. He doesn't just kill his victims, he enjoys ripping them to shreds in the most gruesome manner. Once he sets his eyes on a victim, it's impossible to escape him. But one still cannot predict the barbaric extent he will go to ensure their death. In my opinion, this unpredictability, paired with monstrous depravity, makes him scarier than almost any other psycho killer in the genre. But what was the inspiration behind such a sadistic monster? There have been a lot of conspiracy theories on the internet regarding Art's inspiration, the most popular theory being that Art was inspired by the notorious serial killer John Wayne Gacy, who also worked as a child entertainer in a Pogo the Clown costume. However, director and writer Damien Leone has denied such claims. In an interview with Entertainment Weekly, Leone talked about his inspiration behind Art's origin. According to Leone, Art was not inspired by any real-life serial killer, but instead was born from a complex psychological terror of an unpredictable stranger. Over 15 years ago, Leone had the idea of a confrontation between a silent clown and a woman on a deserted city bus in the middle of the night. As the ride continues, the clown stares at her, and the experience transforms from mildly unsettling to aggressively intimidating. This single idea would later reshape Leone's 2011 short Terrifier, where Art returned as the central slasher villain who brutally kills and mutilates characters with no remorse. We'll get into that shortly. Before that, let's talk briefly about Art's debut. Forging the First Grin. The short film era. Art's first appearance came in Leone's horror short The Ninth Circle, filmed on 35mm and premiered in 2008. In this film, Art was in a brief supporting role along with other satanic creatures from the depths of hell. Although Leone wanted to make the film to showcase his practical effects skills, the evil foundations of Art were planted from his very first appearance. In this short, Art abducts a young woman named Casey from a desolate train station into a satanic cult. Art is more human here than in the later films, where his supernatural dimension becomes a central part of the plot. In his first shot, he comes across as a deeply disturbed yet vulnerable human being. His iconic costume and horn also make their presence felt in this brief role. Mike Giannelli's performance as Art struck the right chord of unsettling yet darkly funny, which would be further explored in the later films. Although in this short, he's depicted more as a classic monster in the vein of Stephen King's Pennywise the Dancing Clown, operating more on shock value, while we still get a glimpse of his trademark pantomime cruelty, which would soon transform into the sadistic monster that we all love. This transformation took place in Leone's 2011 slasher short film Terrifier, where Art returned as the central antagonist. Leone submitted the short to various film festivals, but it struggled to find a home on the festival circuit. Later, Leone uploaded the film on YouTube, where it garnered more than 100,000 views and gained popularity. which would benefit the character and the franchise as a whole. In this short, Mike Giannelli returns as Art and gives a much more sinister twist to the character. We get to see the character's unpredictable actions, scatological fascinations, deadly sense of humor, brutal killing methods, and disconcerting facial expressions, the characteristics that would later be widely associated with Art the Clown. Giannelli also adds a sense of disgust to the character, which makes his actions more disturbing. We also see a development in Art's makeup in this film, with a lot of the detail being added to his face. The plot plays out like a staple slasher, with an unnamed woman driving toward New York at night. When she stops at a gas station, she encounters Art. What follows is a relentless chase between Art and the woman as she tries to save herself. A lot of bloody deaths also take place throughout the film, with a particular shout out to the murder sequence of the gas station employee. The film also has some well-crafted set pieces, particularly the one where Art gets out of the ground and the climax where Art operates on the woman, which is ridiculous yet brilliantly scary, a feature that would become a recurrent presence in the future films of the series. Although we get a taste of the clown he will eventually become, in this short he still has his human nature intact. This is evident in the way he walks or presents himself on screen, with a calculated yet sinister presence. The cursed VHS. The full-length transition. However, the human aspect of the character changed drastically in Art's next appearance in 2013, with the anthology film All Hallows Eve. After this short film, Leone desperately wanted to make a feature with Art the Clown as the central character. As luck would have it, producer Jesse Baggett watched Terrifier on YouTube and wanted to include it in his Halloween-themed anthology film. Leone agreed to the project, and the film eventually became a showcase for Art the Clown. The film featured the two previously mentioned shorts, and also a new segment directed by Leone himself called Something in the Dark. What makes this film fascinating and important for our video are the wraparound segments, which feature a babysitter named Sarah taking care of two children after their neighborhood trick-or-treat adventures. The kids discover an unmarked VHS tape in their trick-or-treat bag, and decide to give it a watch. As the kids and the babysitter continue watching the shorts featuring Art, they begin to realize between the segments there's a presence inside the house. Toward the end of the film, we see Art appearing on the TV screen from a desolate warehouse and suddenly breaking the fourth wall. Art directly looks at the screen and then enters their house. He then proceeds to kill the children. This is one of the earliest major signs that Art is not a normal killer, because the film lets him cross the barrier between the tape and the real world. The ending of the film presents a sense of unease for us, as we realize that he's not a mere killer clown, but someone whose powers and intentions are more than what meets the eye. In his final performance as Art, especially the wraparound segments, Mike Giannelli adds an aura of discomfort and disgust to the clown, which makes his eventual breaking of the fourth wall more uncomfortable and deeply unsettling. Although Giannelli retired from acting after this anthology, the cinematic journey of Art had just begun. A new face of fear, the slasher icon, is born. Made roughly 3 years after All Hallows Eve, Terrifier marks the long-awaited big screen debut of Art the Clown and the beginning of his cinematic glory. This can be largely credited to the slapstick performance of David Howard Thornton as Art in his debut role, which makes him charismatic but also brings out his psychotic nature. In interviews, Leone has pointed out that Thornton's audition reminded him of silent comedy, while Thornton himself has called Art the Bugs Bunny of the horror world. This is especially evident in one of the early scenes set in a diner in Miles County, New York, where Art encounters Tara and Dawn, his potential victims for the night. In this scene, we see Art carefully monitoring the two unfortunate women. Here, Thornton uses the device of mime acting to expose a campy side of Art's personality, which temporarily comforts his victims but also warns them of things to come. Think of Charlie Chaplin's performance as the Tramp, but with a slasher origin. The sudden shift in his body language from disgusting to adorable to menacing in this sequence, with his trademark black plastic bag and small black hat, gives the character a certain depth that sometimes transcends the film he belongs to. The film is an ultra-violent, extremely gory slasher, shot in the style of low-budget 1970s grindhouse films. Like All Hallows Eve, this film also takes place on Halloween and has a simplistic plotline. Art the Clown kills people with all kinds of instruments in a soon-to-be bug-bombed building, and it's a dirty basement. The film opens with a horrifically disfigured Victoria Hayes, the sole survivor of the Miles County Halloween Night Massacre, who gouges popular talk show host Monica Brown's eyes after her interview. What follows is a flashback to the night of the massacre, where Art hunts down Victoria's sister Tara and her friend Dawn throughout most of the film. The film is a non-stop exploration of various ways to mutilate and torture human bodies, with frequent close-ups on disfigured body parts and corpses, a staple of the low-budget grindhouse films the movie pays homage to. However, what makes the film different from other slashers like the Halloween series and Saw is the undertone of dark comedy brought in largely by Thornton's performance. At one point in the film, after he mutilates Dawn in a cross-section, I badly wanted him to die, but also couldn't take my eyes off him. This forbidden charm of Art gets solidified in the climax sequence of the film, which takes place in a morgue. After he shoots himself in the dirty basement to avoid arrest, Art gets mysteriously resurrected in the morgue and kills the doctors soon after. This sequence successfully transforms him from a psychotic mass murdering clown into something far more supernatural. It brings a mythical dimension to Art, which Leone would explore in further detail in the next and arguably best film in the franchise. Angels, Demons, and the Pale Girl, the deep lore. In horror films, the monster generally signifies a visual manifestation of real-world anxieties and fears. But what happens when the monster becomes an almost unstoppable entity who also happens to be immortal? For Damien Leone, the answer is to scale up the scope of the entire franchise and tell a story with deep biblical overtones, where Art is transformed from a human-like slasher into a physical vessel for supernatural evil. Throughout the film, Leone puts in multiple biblical and satanic images that elevate the film from its slasher origins to an age-old morality tale set in the Terrifier universe. In Terrifier 2, following his resurrection in the first film, Art is no longer just a human killer. He appears to be resurrected and empowered by a demonic force, turning him into an almost unstoppable agent of supernatural chaos. Art in this film doesn't just kill people, he enjoys the whole process. This is most notably seen in the Halloween shop sequence and the now infamous bedroom scene where Art kills Sienna's friend, Allie. He's equal parts scary and depraved, and his actions feel less like ordinary murder and more like ritualized cruelty. But what is the devil without a savior figure? Leone addresses this question with a character of Sienna Shaw, a final girl who's a worthy successor to Ripley from the Alien series and Laurie Strode from the Halloween franchise. Although Sienna is the fated archenemy of Art, she's dealing with her own psychological issues. She's still recovering from the suicide of her father, Michael, a comic book artist whose final days were spent on a mysterious prophetic sketchbook which had drawings of Art and his victims. But his prophecies don't end there. Michael also drew an armored female warrior who was destined to be the chosen one in this battle of good and evil. That warrior is Sienna. Michael also gifted her with a mysterious glowing sword before his demise, a sword that becomes a supernatural weapon tied to Sienna's destiny. With the sword in the notebook, Sienna's parallels with a Christ-like figure become further apparent. Art's satanic overtones, on the other hand, are aided by a far greater evil called the Little Pale Girl, a mysterious demonic entity who takes the form of Emily Crane. She's tied to Art's resurrection and appears to have helped bring him back after the events of the previous film. The Little Pale Girl also has a tragic connection to the lore. Jonathan's research connects her appearance to Emily Crane, a murdered girl whose image becomes part of the mystery surrounding Art's return. The pale little girl becomes Art's guiding force as they plan to eliminate the Chosen One and continue their evil operations without any interruption. After brutally killing, maiming, chopping, and lashing a lot of human bodies in the way, Art finally confronts Sienna in the Terrifier attraction of a discarded carnival. Inside the attraction, we see creepy sketches of clowns resembling demons and other satanic symbols. As Sienna fights to rescue her brother Jonathan, she realizes that the attraction is also connected to a hellish, supernatural space that shelters evil creatures. After a brutal fight where Sienna is inflicted with multiple scars, evoking Christ's crucifixion, Sienna finally beheads Art, fulfilling her father's prophecy and saving her brother. Turns out, it's not over yet. In the post-credits scene, the Little Pale Girl is shown to possess Victoria Hayes in the rehab facility and gives birth to Art's new head. The evil is reborn again and will come back with a vengeance in the next installment. Slaying bells and heavy metal, the Christmas takeover. For being a satanic vessel of evil in the second film of the franchise, Art the Clown evolves into his ultimate form, that of a pop culture icon, much like the other slasher icons of the past. Although Terrifier 3 continues the events of the previous film 5 years later, it moves the main feature away from Halloween and uses Christmas as the backdrop for further exploits of Art the Clown. Every Christmas movie needs a Santa, and who could be a better Santa than Art? Art's transformation into a killer Santa, which is also an anagram for Satan, remains the highlight of Terrifier 3. Although the subgenre of killer Santa has been done to death in Hollywood, with films like Silent Night, Deadly Night, and Christmas Evil among the notable examples, Leone offers fresh life into the genre by turning Art into the bloody Santa who kills with a mischievous grin and spares no one, not even Santa Claus. The cozy comfort of Christmas films is done away with and replaced by a sadistic maniac who can do anything to make it a memorable, bloody experience. The film seems to be aware of the iconification of Art, and this is seen most notably by the subway sequence and with the subplot of a true crime podcast where people are fascinated by the mysterious killer clown. Terrifier 3 expands on the demonic lore with the character of Victoria Hayes, who serves as a perfect foil to the final girl imagery of Sienna. She becomes the demonic enabler for Art after the events of the second film, as they join forces and continue their mission to eliminate Sienna. Victoria's partnership with the killer of her sister depicts the all-consuming nature of evil. Sienna, on the other hand, is just out of a rehab facility after the traumatic events of the last film and starts living with her aunt Jessica and her family. As she tries to adjust to the new setup, she senses the return of the killer clown. The third film re-embraces its campy origins and provides us with one gruesome set piece after another. The climax in particular remains memorable due to the badass fight sequence between Art and Victoria versus a brutally injured Sienna, which is equal parts tense and exciting. After the final fight with the help of her sword, Sienna drives Victoria back to the depths of hell, but the victory comes with a devastating cost of losing her only surviving family member in the portal. However, not all hope is lost. With the destruction of Victoria and the demon, Art appears to be separated from that same demonic power again, leaving him in a more vulnerable state going forward. But this doesn't mean that he'll forget his savage roots. If the final scene is any indication, Art will continue his bloody adventures in the next installment as well. In the final scene of the film, we see a bloody Art boarding an empty bus in the middle of the night, where he sits in front of a woman who is reading a book called The Ninth Circle, an obvious homage to Leone's original inspiration and his first short. This sequence serves as a full circle moment for both the character and the creator, as Art the Clown solidifies his presence as a certified pop culture icon. Art's influence, however, is not only limited to the screen. He featured in a prominent music video for Terrifier 3 called A Work of Art by the heavy metal band Ice Nine Kills. The video, released during October 2024, sees Art in a heavy metal concert setting where he soon takes over the stage. The video ends with Art killing everyone present at the concert. The music video serves as a final reminder of how Art has taken over contemporary pop culture discussions and successfully evolved into a pop culture icon from what began as an ordinary killer clown. Bleeding onto the page, the comic book universe. I know that we've covered all the Terrifier media in the video, but we can't finish the video before telling you about another incarnation of Art the Clown, this time in the form of a limited comic book series illustrated by horror comic artist Steve McGuinness. Released between 2021 and 2022, the comic is an official adaptation of the first film of the series and follows three girls on Halloween night trying to escape the menace of Art the Clown. The comic was released in 3 single issues and was available to buy through the Terrifier shop website. If you're already a fan of the films, the comic serves as an opportunity to collect the gory exploits of Art in comic form. Unfortunately, the comic was published as print to order, so it's not widely available, but it can be regarded as a collector's item. So this is all from my side about the origins of Art the Clown. With Terrifier 4 expected to dig into Art's backstory, I can't wait to see what direction Leone takes our beloved slasher icon next. If you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Marvelous Videos. We'll see you in the next one. Have a great day, and as always, stay marvelous.